All right. And okay.
My back just cracked.
Do you hear the oh, that's right.
Together with friends along the way, united with strength to face the day. We're together and now we're here to say, united we will be the change.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Above and Beyond, the Accessibility and Inclusion Podcast for Tuesday, March the 18th. You know what, Maddie? It is a lovely day outside. I think the last time we had a YouTube live, that we were talking about how snow was impeding our quality of life, and now
Oh,
we've got some beautiful weather here happening in Hamilton. I don't know
yeah.
what is going on in Ottawa. You tell
It's
me.
it's gonna get to 10 degrees today, so it's almost it's basically shorts weather.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up. So we want to talk about weather. We are at 16 here in Hamilton.
Oh, we are not that. Right now we're at 10 degrees, and our high today will be 11. And yeah, I'm looking at the weather forecast for the next 14 days, and we're at the point where 17 tomorrow, 10 degrees, 13 degrees, 6, 5, 2, 3, 5, 3, 2 hours. So we're March is the beginning of spring, and also the beginning of its massive confusion as to what actual um uh what actual season it's in. Like I don't oh yeah, so next week we there's 2 days where we have 1 to 3 centimeters of snow, and then but it's above zero, and then rain the next day. It's just, in
Well,
April could be second winter, it could be full spring, and May it could decide to be spring or summer. It's all up in the air.
I think
But right now, today, it's a beautiful day. I've
I
been out for quite
I
a while.
think I think, Maddie, if you're getting snow above zero, it's called rain.
Well, if the high is above zero, but the low is zero or minus, right? Snow can happen in the evenings. Snow can actually happen in the middle of sun, so a
Uh,
sunny day where it's nice and warm. It's just if you ever gone skiing, you can experience wearing a t-shirt and shorts going down a hill, and you've got a little bit of snow at the top of the hill, but by the time you get halfway down, it's like you're in summer. So yeah.
Maddie, I have some news for you. I know it's been a while since we had one of these YouTube lives, and
Yes,
are you sitting down?
always.
Brace for this,
I'm
right?
either sitting down or lying down.
Uh,
It's how I roll, man. It's how I roll.
brace yourself.
Holding on to the dear microphone.
There are 1,750 days from January 1st till January 1st, 2030.
Are we starting this new countdown?
I don't know. Whenever I think
Yeah,
about it, I
I
feel
know.
like I gotta bring it up. I just,
Yeah, I know. I'm looking forward to actually having some conversations with ministry staff. Hopefully in June, to push the idea of saving businesses lots of money by investing in accessibility.
and
Yeah, I think we got to the point where all of the things that we've tried to do with the government in the past hasn't obviously worked.
no,
So we gotta find a new way to talk to them. So I'm thinking of finding ways just to, there's enough advocates, there's enough activists out there that are holding the line on what the AODA should be. All right, it's great. We need that. I want to see things change. So I think we just need to flip the narrative, and I'll get into that more at another live, because that's not the topic of today's live.
No, but just kind of putting a bow on what you just said, Maddie. I feel like policy, good, bad, or indifferent, is really weaponizing to people with disabilities in a negative context, in a negative connotation, in the sense that we're being treated as coddled, we're being treated as um, delicate, being treated as liabilities, and I feel like the concept of policy more often than not is putting people with disabilities more behind the eight ball than it is, giving us.
No, we are the 8 ball. That's
Well,
what's happening
we're,
in many
we're
places. We've
well, yeah,
become the 8 ball, and we're not behind the 8 ball anymore.
well, yeah, we have become the eight ball, and we're kind of getting behind ourselves, really,
Yeah.
because the ideal is people like you and I continue to use common sense and to use our words and the strength and the core that that we speak, but it seems to be putting us more, it doesn't lead to action. It doesn't lead to things getting done to support people with disabilities, which kind of brings us to our topic. Neurodiversity Celebration Week started
Yep.
this past Monday, and you
Yesterday.
know
Yeah.
what? Yeah, and really, neurodiversity is speaks to who we are as human beings. There's neurodiverse and there's neurodivergent. Maddie, I'll let you speak to that.
Sure. Yeah. So there have been a lot of confusion around what is neurodiversity and what it isn't. And so I'm going to try to give a few definitions uh, of neurodiversity, and I'm going to use what I call the hand globe model. So, all right, this is the world. All right, just imagine these two hands are holding up the world, right? What you're seeing right now
Got
is
the
neurodiversity.
whole world in their hands.
All
Whole
right.
world.
Thank you for the soundtrack.
Right.
All right. So what you're seeing, neurodiversity is all of humanity. Neurodiversity is humanity, right? But when we're thinking of neurodiversity, we're thinking of all of the different neurotypes, the different ways people think and do things, based on based on the way whether they're conditions that they are born with, or conditions that they get as they're through their life. It's both neurodevelopmental. So how we think, everybody thinks differently. Some people think and do things in a very similar way. We call that neurotypical. See all these 4 fingers on each hand here? Each hand, each finger is slightly different than the other, but they are all do things in a very similar way. And then we have our thumbs. We have people who have, let's say, neurodevelopmental conditions like autism, ADHD, Tourette's, and then we have people with mental health conditions as well. Um, they think and do things very differently than the way neurotypicals work. But as I've learned, with the physical disabilities I have on top of that, it's really hard to do things without thumbs. Like I'm showing you these thumbs here. My left thumb doesn't work at all. My right thumb is intermittent. I need the thumbs work together with the fingers to be able to do everything we need to do as in humanity. So that's just like a visual kind of look at things. But when we talk about neurodiversity, we're generally talking about neurodivergence, which are those brain types, the mental health conditions, people, neurodevelopmental things like Down syndrome, all these things that are different than how the rest of the world typically thinks and works. The world is built in a neurotypical way, and those of us that are neurodivergent struggle with being in that world, but we're needed by that world, and the world needs us, and we need the world. And so the thing about this particular week is it's a time for us, instead of focusing on all the challenges that come with all of the barriers that we face of being neurodivergent, we can talk about the things that we celebrate the things that are unique about us, that are needed in the world, and that are good things. It's not excusing the challenges that we may have, both internally as well as in the barriers around the world. But we talk, let's use this week to talk about how moving the concept of neurodiversity into a realm where we're accepting people's differences has moved things forward positively in the world today.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think it's very important that the neurodiversity and the neurodivergence, you kind of, allow itself to be
Hmm.
explained and out there and celebrated, but also, help people become aware
Yeah.
of neurodiversity and neurodivergence and really and what that truly means, Maddie. And you just spoke about it very eloquently, and you really just you hit the nail on the head when it comes to the importance of neurodiversity, and we're needed in this world to help diversify the community and diversify the world, because neurodiversity and neurodivergence is different with each and every one of us.
Hmm.
There may be subtle difference, but there are differences nonetheless, and I really feel like that needs to be amplified in the
Hmm.
conversation we're gonna have today.
Yeah, I'll just point one more thing. So at the beginning, I said neurodiversity equals humanity. Neurodiverse means human. So if you're talking about a neurodiverse person, you're basically saying a human person, which doesn't make sense. So don't, neurodiverse is a concept at large. Never use it to apply to an individual. We have
No,
neurotypical, neurodivergent. There are also, well, I'm on the topic of you putting out some terms out there. There are some in the community that do not like the term neurodivergent. So things like neuro-unique, neurospicy. There's a lot of terms that people are using that they're choosing to use to describe themselves, because um, divergent and being different is, still they can feel a negative connotation to it. So you're going to see a lot of people saying that they're neuro unique, neurospicy. I like neurospicy. I do happen to admit, one of the things that I have a T-shirt. 'Cause I'm autistic, on top of many other things that I deal with in my world. And one of my favorite T-shirts I have is a picture of a jalapeno pepper with different colors and different ratings, and it starts at the bottom: mild, medium, severe, and extra spicy. And that points to the arrow that's like, my autism is extra spicy.
well, exactly, and I mean it also speaks to, kind of talking about pronouns as well. Preference in
Yeah.
pronouns, preference in how we address each other, and we've got to be respectful of that.
Yeah.
Gender, whether it be gender, whether it be person first, whether it be
Mhm.
disability first. I mean, all of those have a connection to one another.
Yeah. And even with, there's even diversity amongst it. Like, it's not just like somebody has one neurotype, right? Neurotypes are collections of how we do things.
Right.
So you can be both autistic and also be diagnosed with ADHD. You can also have mental health conditions. There's these, the neurodivergent umbrella is broad. Um, and it encompasses, again, many different ways that people think, but there's intersection within it that is important, because we're not just one way of thinking. Like, we're a collection of ways. So that's one of the reasons why we say, if you've met one autistic, you've met one autistic. Each of us are autistic slightly differently. We have some commonalities. There's some themes that run amongst us. But then if you put an autistic together beside somebody with ADHD, they could have some similarities in terms of sensory challenges and whatnot. They could have some similarities in terms of how they approach tasks and whatnot. And then they can have some complete differences. And if you have autism and ADHD, those things can conflict and be challenging, but amazing when you harness.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, speaking to the term as a whole, when you've met one person with a disability, you've met one person with a disability. I've recently had the opportunity to speak to a class full of emerging PSWs. And, we were speaking about, among the things, sliding board transfers.
Mhm.
And, I did a presentation on, myself and the quality of life and supporting your clients. And it's important to recognize when you're working with one client, you're working with one client. Don't necessarily take the ideas that you've got with your one client to the next client, because that could be totally different. And incorporating certain things that you work with client A into client B may prove not as good as you would ultimately think it would be. I mean, I would think that. I mean, in terms of you have to have an open mind, you have to have a clean slate when you're working with each individual client to ensure
Yeah.
that client gets the best care and the best safety to ensure that their quality of life is equal to all
Mhm.
others.
Yeah. It's when we're given opportunities to when we're given opportunities and when we're supported to do things our way,
Mhm.
in the way that we need in the moment. And again, we're all there are some similarities uh, uh, amongst people with similar conditions, but we are unique. But when we're given the opportunities to do the things that we need and we're supported, we see the beginnings of thriving. And I love um, the creative outputs that we see amongst. I mean, I look at some autistic artists, and the things they're able to create from their minds is just unbelievable. But they're only able to do these things when they're supported. When they're not supported, when they're not given opportunities to show their work, when they're not given opportunities to learn more about doing their art. It's we've come a long way, and I love that our world is more open to seeing people with different disabilities differently than the way they've been stereotypically portrayed in much of the inspiration corn that's out there.
Well, Maddie, you said a lot of great things just there, and I want to bring something up, and I want to bring it up carefully. The idea of push pull theory. The idea when we talk about being able to do things and being able to do things our way, and being supported in doing things our way through allyship, and really that is vital to the core of many people with disabilities, because it's not right or wrong. Our way of doing things in whatever we're doing is what makes us feel comfortable, is what will get the job done. And that's the difference between surviving and thriving. And we need to establish an ally group, a core of people that are allies to get to that level of understanding, to get to that level of securing the fact that we can live the lives that we choose to live, nothing that is governed against us. Hence that push pull concept that I started off with. It's that resistance from the pushback that impedes our quality of life. And the longer there's that pushback, the longer it's going to take for people with disabilities to go from surviving to thriving.
Yes. When it's important that all of us get a chance to all the people that help us get to ride the good ship USS Allyship.
Yeah, wait. I'm not as much a proponent as I was maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago about, walking while in their shoes or, spend a day in the wheelchair and whatnot. I'm not, because I wouldn't wish disability upon anyone. But I think it's also important just to, I think it's a value of trust, you know, giving people with disabilities the abilities to know what we need to thrive, to know what we need in our quality of life. And I am, my quality of life, just like anybody else's quality of life, is or shouldn't be negotiable. And I feel like we're restricted by so many things, like I mentioned earlier, earlier, the idea of weaponizing policy against us and limiting us to our abilities based on a gross misconception of what our capabilities are. And speaking to neurodiversity, it's the accomplishment of a task that may look unorthodox, that may look a little different than what neurotypical or what is the standard or the quote unquote more normal approach is to accomplishing the task. But we take the time to um, bring that forward. We take the time to know that, and we take the time to manage our own time, to be more understanding of, the way we do things requires a little bit extra time. The way we do things, is our way of doing it. It may just need or may just require society to keep up to neurodiversity. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
No,
it's a lot to unpack, but
it is.
we talk a lot about challenges, you know, um, but this is Neurodiversity Celebration Week, so I'm going to sort of flip things around a bit.
Okay.
What do you what So this we've got 2 months and a half here of 2025. What are some things that you would like to celebrate about what you're able to do and the people close to are have been in the disability world have been able to accomplish this year?
I mean, that's a great question. I think it's important to recognize that for me, I don't know where I would be or who I would have become, without my disability. So, in speaking to that, I know all I know because of the disability, and I think that's a celebration in and of itself.
Mhm.
And to be able to, and I don't like to use the word inspire, but I like to use the word aspire. I like to aspire others. I like to aspire others to be more aware of different types of challenges and barriers that people with disabilities face. That was my take home for the students that I spoke to last week. Speaking to the different, the challenge you might not see from your lens, but from the lens of a person with a disability, how much of a challenge would you perceive that would be? Like, I'll use the one of the most basic examples, a curb cut. I'll even speak to the whole um, divots in the road, divots in the streets, divots in the sidewalk. That's a challenge. And we try to overcome those challenges, and it's not in a heroic manner. I want to be clear on that. It's not in a manner to establish heroism, but it's just because we have to do it. Disability, and I've said this a lot recently too. Disability is no longer possible; it's inevitable. And I think that speaking to that and speaking to the mindset of being proactive and having that sixth sense or seventh sense of disability awareness will help amplify your quality of life or help amplify the quality of life of people with disabilities, even if you don't have a disability yourself. But having that lens of disability perspective, I think, is something that we also have to celebrate this week. In addition to neurodiversity.
Well, for me, I look at I, I'm seeing more and more organizations and groups wanting to know what they need to do to change to be uh, neuro inclusive, um, and whether it's in terms of how they interview people, how and where they put job notices, and then how to support people when they onboard and onwards. Um, there's so much more of an understanding of, first of all, they're having people with more neurodivergent minds is a plus, and there's a net benefit to both the organizations as well as to the neurodivergent individual, but also acknowledging that sometimes it means that things need to change, and uh, it's I think the concept of neurodiversity has helped amplify the and underscore the need for accommodations as well as general accessibility. And um, it's been really neat to see. I'm being more engaged and sought out for input and consulting, but other people I know are as well. And um, I'm also, seeing my kids, seeing my daughter, my youngest, who really wants to be a vocal advocate. We're gonna do a presentation on autism and neurodivergence in her school, in her high school, in April. Just April happens to be Autism Acceptance Month, so we're gonna get ready for that. We have
Yeah,
a whole month, yeah. But it's
absolutely.
it's it's been neat to you know see the pieces coming together. And as long as I bury my head and ignore everything that's happening in the States, well, I can't, but if I want to keep positive, I look at what's happening in Canada, look at what's happening in Ontario, look at what's happening in Toronto and in Ottawa. There's I'm seeing more opportunities and for people who think differently that just didn't exist 2, 3, 5, definitely before then.
Well, 100%. Like, I mean, thinking differently is not thinking negatively. I want to underline that, underscore that, make that abundantly clear. Nice mug, by the way.
Thank you.
Um,
Oh, this mug or this mug?
well, well, that's a really bad mug shot. You know what I mean? The other mug shot was better. I just want to.
I think the two mugs together were great.
Hey. No, I think it's important to underline, underscore, and amplify that importance of how neurodiversity, neurospicy, being neurospicy
Yeah,
makes things a lot better because
yeah,
it allows for, a different way of thinking. You know, if things were great in the status quo, we wouldn't be talking about change as we keep talking about it, not only in the disability community, but in the community at large. Change is inevitable, and we either adapt to it or adopt to change, or we get held back. We
it
get held back.
yeah,
And that whether we change subconsciously, or we're conscious of the changes that need to be made. Those are important factors as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of who we are, Maddie, and a lot of what we do is to make the world a better place. One of the things that you talked about, is having the conversation, and having the the mindfulness to do these presentations, to have these conversations. But and I want to say this, properly and respectfully, but how are the conversations being received? Because anybody can have a conversation with you, but then at the end of the day, are they able to retain the information that you provide, and how do they take the information that you provide to them and implement that in their businesses, in their community, uh, and all that they do to. And I like the way you worded it all at the beginning, was to save money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the it's a balance between the self-interest of people and the awareness of the need to support others. And sometimes you can support yourself better by supporting others. And it's just finding that balance. I mean, as I said, I'm realizing that with this particular government that we have provincially, um, I think I finally figured out how to. We're going to have to do things differently in the next 4 years if we want to get the change that we need. Um, and we know the things that didn't work. We've had two terms with them, and I've seen where we've been able to get really good change, and I've seen where things have not happened, and we need to learn. We need to find different way. But I am positive it's we're about to go through a federal election. Now we just had a provincial election, which we talked about the last thing. And by the way, spoiler in case you didn't know, the Conservatives won in Ontario.
Yeah.
Again, pretty well. Just the Liberals got some more of the seats than the NDP from the NDP, but it was basically all about the same. Anywho, and we still have a huge issue with convincing people that they really need to go vote for somebody, and instead of not voting for somebody, which they did very successfully. Um,
Yes, they did.
they successfully didn't vote for Doug Ford. Yahoo! Yes,
Yeah.
but anyways, we're gonna have a federal election, and we know that one of the biggest challenges that we have faced as a disability community over the last few years has been how we were significantly felt betrayed by the federal government pushing for the Canada Disability Benefit with only $200 a month, and so there's going to be this is a federal elections coming, and we're going to have the opportunity to push for these parties and these individual members to think disability. The disability needs to be on the ballot, and I know it's so easy to just think the Liberals were bad because they didn't do this. The NDP was bad because they didn't stick up for us. But there's bigger issues, and I think there's enough time, especially with a change in leadership of the Liberal Party, that we need to start from scratch. We need to find the way that's going to bring the change that we need, so that we see progress. The CDB as it is progress from where we are right now. Like, it's not great, but it's not the promise we thought we had. But it is something that's better than what we have now. So we have to start from there so that we don't roll backwards and we move forward. And we,
Well, the momentum.
this ended up being a political thing again. I was really hoping that we didn't talk politics today, but we never. We can't avoid it.
It affects us day in and day out.
It's like there's a couple things that are internally in us that are the checklist of things. Okay, we're not going to talk about this. What do we talk about? This.
It ends up happening. So here,
I know.
so how do we? Okay, so based on what you just said, Matty.
Welcome to the Roundabout podcast, where we talk about whatever and politics.
This is what we do.
That's what we
Okay,
do.
so let me ask you this: how do we? Because we say progression happens for people with disabilities as a snail's pace, right?
Yeah.
But regression seems to be happening for people with disabilities at a rapid pace.
Yeah, I mean, there's. It's like we're running on two planes of existence. There's the corporate disability movement, like disability, people with disabilities on the whole are progressing in terms of what our rights are, what our opportunities are, what funding is available to us. At a corporate level, as a large body of people, it's progressing. But for those who, the more disabled you are, the other plane of existence is what we're hitting in terms of the challenges and the barriers. There's more barriers for people who are suffering more. So it creates it's the domino effect, right? When we have things and we have supports around us, and the things that our government are doing can enhance that, we move forward. But we have made in Canada instead of undoing legislative poverty.
Well, and if we go to the States, we'll get tariffs.
I don't even want to talk about the States. The States is a cesspool right now. Like I am very glad I'm not living in the States right now, because being a disabled person in the States has all of a sudden become extremely dangerous to a personal point where we don't experience here in Canada. We have, as challenging as it can be, we have a healthcare system that we don't have to pay for, that we know is there. We have long waits and stuff like that, but I'm telling you, comparing it to the States, they have even worse waits, and you have to pay for things, and the outcomes aren't great. And that's before we get into what all of the rights that have just been unfumbled.
Okay, Matty,
But we are seeing generally a progression of rights and opportunities as people with disabilities in Ontario and Canada. But we need to both improve, quicken that, but also we've got to make sure that we're not losing people daily, which we are, to poverty or to MAID.
Matty, before we get off this subject, I want to talk about the Canadian Disability Benefit, and that's seeming to be implemented sooner rather than later.
It's July 1st. Yeah, we're supposed to. I'm not sure what day in July, but in July people will be getting payments. In April and May, we'll be able to enroll in it. Yeah, if you got the disability tax credit. What's that?
If we're not already enrolled in it,
I'm not sure if there's going to be automatic enrollment. It might be, but see, I was part of a process of analyzing a potential paths of helping people get on board with signing up for the CDB. So most likely there will be in April or early in May, portals opened up on probably through CRA, maybe through the so many different ministry names. Service Canada. Let's just call it
Yeah.
Service Canada. Service Canada or through CRA. Those are the two possibilities. Probably Service Canada, and you will. You're going to get you're going to get a letter giving you saying, hey, you're because you have the disability tax credit and you've done your taxes for 2023, you're able to enroll for the CDB, which once you're in and approved, the funds will be rolling out every month beginning in July. So it's happening. The regulations have all been passed. It doesn't matter whether there's a change in government. These are like there's the there's the public service part of things, and then there's the political part of things. Political part of things is a little bit of upheaval right now. This is all in the government. This is all in the public service right now. It's out of politicians' hands. Funding was initiated a year ago in the budget, so it doesn't really matter what happens. It could only get better, right? we have a new government says coming in and they could say, hey, we're going to improve this, but you're not going to see it unraveled because this had unanimous support across all parties. Not the amount, but the process and everything. So that's the thing that people need to understand, that you're eligible for this if you're between the age of 18 and 65, and you have the disability tax credit. So if you have not applied for the disability tax credit, you need to do this now. I'm telling this to my oldest daughter, who thought that, well, she saw in her things like, oh yeah, you're eligible for it. Then that you just have to call and they just upped it. It's like, no. Your parents, she wasn't living with me at the time, so it's not my fault. But if your parents didn't renew it, then as an adult, you need to go to your doctor. You fill out enough. It's actually pretty much simpler now to a term. Online in your My Account, you can go and apply for the disability tax credit. You fill out a bunch of things that you need to do yourself, and then you have a code that you give to your doctor, who will then go online and fill things out. So you need to set up an appointment with your doctor to talk about there's a bunch of things that relate to your daily activities of life. If you are having struggles with those or certain disabilities, then you can qualify for the disability tax credit, which is it's a little bit broader than it was a few years ago. So, I think the intention is to make it a little bit more broad, to be as broad as some of the provincial levels. Again, different provinces and federal governments and ministries and things have different concepts of what disability is, and there's different purposes. It's disability for daily acts of living, disability in terms of being able to be employed. So different measures, but the disability tax credit is about performing the daily activities of life, and a few other aspects. So disability tax credit, get that. Make sure you have that. If you have that, you're going to wait to see a letter in April or May, and when you get that, you can go online to the portal that they'll point you to, which is probably the Service Canada one, and you'll be able to apply, enroll, whatever the word they're going to use, and beginning July, you'll start seeing $200 in your account every month, and hopefully that will go up with inflation.
That hopefully, and that's fantastic, Matty. Thank you, for letting our audience know as well. Before we kind of, say goodbye, I know we've been on for over 40 minutes now, and I know it's in and around dinner time for people, so we appreciate whether you're watching us now or later, and feel free to subscribe to the channels. Reach out to us as well. We'll put up the graphic later, but one of the things that again, before we say goodbye, is I want to talk about an opportunity that I had earlier this month, and I couldn't be more happier that to have been asked to speak to this. Hamilton hosted a gala or a forum to speak to transit-oriented development, and it was a worldwide gala speaking to smart cities. Now, again, we talked about the importance of progression rather than regression, and I think we have to also talk about smart cities in a way that includes people with disabilities. Using smart
Yeah.
technology, using technology, and how do we take that technology? And we spoke to our friends in Toronto about it. How do we make that technology user friendly? How do we, pardon me, how do we make that technology available for people at an affordable price? How do we get around in our cities?
Yeah.
Getting from point A to point B when the congestion of a city is going to be implemented through the construction. What are our contingency plans? What are our ways for people with disabilities to get around while there's ongoing construction? What is going to be developed to help people with disabilities,
Yeah.
navigate community? How is the implementation of an LRT, for example, in Hamilton, going to improve the lives of people with disabilities, if at all? I mean, it's going to take away from certain current service structures, that we
Yeah.
have, the
Yeah.
development of that.
The
So,
the the yeah, LRTs are a very interesting thing. I mean, one of the first special interests that I had was the Ottawa bus system. Oh my God. I used to collect all of the bus maps, and every year I would get the big system map and put it on my wall. And as I got older, like 8 or 9, I would call OC Transpo up all the time and ask questions. Then when I was 10, I would send them proposals to change routes, which my first one got accepted when I was 10 years old. I would go to their meetings 11 and 12, and then when it got to the point where they were starting to think about an LRT, like the system was designed. We had a transitway system with a bus system, a rapid bus system that was designed to, from my understanding, to be able to be turned into a light rail system at some point. But that never happened, and it got to the point where when they decided they needed one, the decision was made to build a short version of it that went from the midway point of the transway system to the midway point on the west, like, from the east and the west side, and to build a tunnel underneath the downtown instead of making one of the roads down in a downtown bus only, and putting, not tunnels, but you just underpasses underneath that one road, if for cars that needed to get to it. It ended up costing $2 billion more to do this subway system, and it took 3 years longer than it was expected to. And what it made is that everybody's time to get to their end destination increased by 5 to 15 minutes.
and and who benefits from that additional cost of $2 billion? The
Well,
developer.
on it, yeah. I mean, it was like I thoroughly believe in rapid transit. I also believe in a spoken hub system, but you got to design it where, like, the hubs have to be at all of the ends, not in the middle, because then you've got these. If you have to get on 3 buses to get someplace, it better be faster than it would have to go on 1 or 2. But if it's not consistently not, you lose people, and that's what's happened in Ottawa. Between the LRT system went on right before COVID began,
Mhm.
and it had all kinds of troubles. And then you had a quarter of the people using it, and now it's only they're only at like 75% of the capacity they had before COVID, yet they expected to be at double what they
Yeah,
had. And it's like it, it's people didn't trust it anyway. So I It does work for people with disabilities quite nicely. It's great to have transit stations that have two elevators instead of one. So if one goes down, you're not having to go making go back forward to another thing to come. It's yeah. It,
You know,
the I've been on the subway in Toronto. It's confusing. Some places, just like as a person in a wheelchair, I love in Ottawa. There is a line with on the ground with rigid dots, so that you can feel that you're on a path to something that's accessible. Like so, from the elevator to the fair to the place where you go in, tap your Presto to where you would get on the train in the most accessible spot. It's all lined up there. You cannot not know where you're supposed to go. Whereas in Toronto, oh my God, it's really difficult to know where you're supposed to get off. If you've never been there, you have no idea where you're going, and you're going to have to get directions all the time. And that's not. I mean, that's accommodations. That's not accessible. Anyways,
and
it's 6:51 here.
it is that is the gospel according to Maddie. Thank you, Maddie.
Yeah.
On that note, I just want to say and wish everybody a happy Transit Operators Appreciation Day. It is Transit Operator Appreciation Day. I want to make that announcement to those listening, watching that are transit operators all across the world. Thank you
Yeah.
for what you do. We appreciate you immensely. And yeah, anything else going on for the week, Manny, that you want to talk about?
No, not really. Big stuff's coming, but April's gonna be massively full of stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
autism is happening in April. So,
Yep,
I'm just working through a lot of the back end stuff on that.
we certainly do have a lot of things happening with autism happening in April.
Yeah,
National
football starts up in a month or so. Yeah.
National Accessibility Week is in
Last week of May.
last week of May as well.
Yep.
Yeah, football is starting back up. The Canadian Football League, the
Yeah.
Hamilton Tiger Cats are starting up soon. I'm excited for that. I just had a conversation with one of my good buddies on.
See, they got named. They should have been named the Hamilton Wind Cats, but no, they're fit to be tied.
I want to thank Natanya Dehan, Tyrell Crawford, and Nick Hurst for the music for Above and Beyond. Can't thank you enough for your support over the years and really part of the vision that Above and Beyond really truly has become since 2016. And I can't believe next year we're going to be celebrating the 10th anniversary of Above and Beyond. So that's going to be exciting as well. As for me, just I've got something very exciting planned on Saturday. I'm not going to allude to it. It will be posted on my social media soon rather than later, but something very exciting is happening. I've met a lot of great people, a lot of great advocates and allies that are lawyers within the Ontario region that have really kind of inspired and empowered me and reinvigorated my spirit to, continue to push forward. I mean, I've had a lot of down moments lately. I'm not gonna elaborate more, but I've been quite down and almost defeated to a certain degree because of certain things going on in my life. But you know what? I've got now a reinvigorated spirit, and I'm ready to push the needle forward. I'm ready to move forward as a person with a disability, as well as as an ally, as a supporter, and we really just got to keep the ball rolling. A big thank you to you, Maddie. It's been nice to be back after a couple of weeks off. I'd say we'll see you next week, but we don't know yet. But we're gonna hopefully see you guys next week. As he rolled his eyes there. But
I was trying to visualize my calendar and which date it was, which happens to be March 25th.
yeah,
It was just my eye. You saw my eye roll, not as in, oh, am I going to be here? It was, I was actually visually in my brain accessing the calendar part of my brain.
and on that note, that encapsulates neurodivergence.
Yep.
All right, Maddie, thank
Shall
you
I-
so much again, and thank you everybody for listening and watching us. Follow us on our social medias at Facebook at the Autistic Rambler, at Above and Beyond Anthony Frozina on X, at Above Beyond for You, at Matt J Dever on X. I don't have the board up, Maddie, so I'm trying to do this by my memory. AnthonyFrozina.ca. Send us an email to Above and Beyond the Podcast at gmail.com. Leave us a comment, leave us a like, share the videos, share what we're doing, share the program, because we appreciate it, and every little bit helps. We'll see you next time.
Together with friends along the way, united with strength to face the day. We're together and now we're here to say, united we will be the change.
All right. I've stopped the stream here. I've just got to wait till it